Make handles. Top stitch close to both edges of handles. Apply interfacing to band sections. On outside, pin handle to band, centering ends over solid lines. Baste. This step is telling us to do 4 different things. The first thing we are going to do is to complete the handles. The handles is in bold lettering. We are going to go to the sewing directions to get further instructions on how to complete that step. The sewing instructions give us more direction on how to complete the handles. Handles, strap, loop. Fold handle in half, lengthwise, with right sides together. Stitch, leaving ends open. Trim seam. Turn handle right side out. Press. Top stitch close to both edges of handle. The pictures they give you show you what the handle looks like before it is turned right side out and after it is turned right side out. To complete the handle for the bag, you are going to take your long strips. You are going to fold right sides together where the strips are in half. From here, you're going to go ahead and pin it so that the needles are in the out position so that you are able to grab them as you sew. As you pin, make sure that you are pinning it so that all of your pins look like this. Continue to pin the entire band, both of them, because you'll be repeating this process for both handles. Pin all the way down, and then we are going to be stitching along the edge at 1/2 inch seam allowance to sew the 2 pieces together. We are now going to sew the handle. You're keeping your attention out here to keep that 1/2 inch seam allowance. Because you're sewing 2 things together, you are going to back stitch. Remember to keep a nice and straight line so that your handle does not become wavy when you flip it right side out. You will be doing the same process for both handles. The only thing you are doing here is steering. The machine is pulling the material for you, so all you have to do is maintain the nice consistent seam allowance at the edge. When you get to the end, go ahead and back stitch. You should have a nice stitch all the way down your handle. We are now going to trim that seam allowance in half. We are going to go ahead and trim this seam allowance to be 1/4. To do that, you are just going to cut it in half. We are not too worried if it's exactly 1/4. We are more worried that we are eliminating bulk for when we flip this right side out. Cut it all the way in half, leaving that bottom shear on the table to help you maintain your straight line. Your finished product should look like this. The next step is to turn handles right side out and press. We now need to turn this handle right side out. To do this, we are going to be using a safety pin. The first thing you are going to do is open the middle of this handle so that you create a tube. Pin the safety pin only on one side. Do not pin it together because you need to pull the material through. At this point, you're going to push the safety pin into the tube. I'm right-handed, so I use my right hand to push the pin, and I use my left hand to grab the pin. What you are going to do is push the pin in, use your right hand to grab the material. Push the pin in, right hand to grab the material. Push the pin in, have your left hand hold the pin. You're going to see here that you have a bunch of material gathered at the end. That's exactly what we want. At this point, use your right hand to grab that material down so that it will start flipping over. You'll continue this again. Scrunch with your right, hold. Scrunch, hold, scrunch, hold, scrunch, hold with the pin with your left hand. You have this excess material. Pull it down. Do not let go of that pin while you do this. Keep working the material down and you will see that it's going to start turning the other way, which is right side out. This is what we want to happen. Continue this process. Scrunch, hold, scrunch, hold, scrunch, hold, scrunch, hold, and pull down. Once you get the pin to come out the other end, you can grab a hold of that pin and pull the rest of the material through. But you need to get that far first. Scrunch, hold, scrunch, hold, scrunch, hold, scrunch, hold with your left hand, pull the material down. What you don't want to happen is for the material to get overly scrunched at the end. So you need to make sure that you're pulling the material all the way down so it's laying flat down here. If it gets too scrunched, you won't be able to pull the material. Scrunch, hold, scrunch, hold, scrunch, hold, scrunch, hold, pull the material down. Continue until you get that pin to come out the other side. I have now gotten my pin to the other side. You can see that I have material scrunched up here that still needs to be flipped over. At this point, you can go ahead and grab that material that your pin is attached to. That's the right side of the material right here. Grab this and start to pull the scrunched material down. This is a much faster way to finish flipping your handle. You now have your handle right side out with the seam on the side. We are going to be doing a top stitch so that you can keep this held in place. You are going to press it first. What you need to do when you are pressing is to get this seam to lay flat on the side. We do not want it to be noticeable on the top or on the bottom. The seam should be sitting right here in the middle. The iron is going to help us achieve this. When we get ready to press, we want to make sure that that seam is laying on the side and not on the top or the bottom. To do this, you lay your iron down. As the iron is down, go ahead and pull that seam out with your fingers. Move the iron down so it is heating the spot that you were just at, which allows you time to move to the next section. Pull that fabric underneath, move to the next section. If you iron well, top stitching will be a breeze. Ironing is very important during your projects because it allows you to have nice, clean lines, which makes your project look nice and professional. What I don't want to see is to have a bubble in this area so that you can see this extra material. Grab that seam, pull it out, lay that handle nice and flat, and move your iron. Continue this for your other handle as well until you get to the end and have a nice flat handle that looks like this. We will be top stitching on both ends, here and here, for the next step.
To complete this step, top stitch close to both edges of handle.
We're now going to do a top stitch on both sides of the bag handle to create a nice decorative look, along with keeping this so it does not roll on you. Remember, for top stitches we're going to be at 3 or 3.5. I set mine to 3.5 to make it a little bit longer stitch. I am going to back stitch, and since this is such a narrow piece, I'm going to line it up with the inside of my toe instead of the outside. So for both of these, I'm going to line up the edge of the material with the inside of my toe. Back stitch, and come all the way down. This is a nice easy piece because all you have to do is steer, but do remember that people will see this, so you want to make sure that your line remains nice and straight. Allow the machine to pull your material through. All you are doing is steering from behind. You'll be doing this on both ends of the handle to make a nice finished look. When you come to the end, go ahead and back stitch. This is what one side looks like when you are complete. When you finish both ends of your handle with the top stitch, this is what it should look like. All the way down, having the stitch nice and even with the edge. It gives it a nice finished look and allows your handle to stay nice and flat. To complete the next part of this step, apply interfacing to band sections.
We are now going to be applying the interfacing to the band of the bag. Remember to keep the bumpy side down onto the wrong side of the material. Go ahead and place this on top. You are going to be covering it again with the damp cloth. Make sure it is not dripping, and you will be holding it in place for 15 seconds. Do not go back and forth. This is not a normal ironing job. You want to make sure that you are melting the interfacing to the material. If you go back and forth, you are not allowing it to get hot enough in one spot to allow that melting to occur. You will do this to both bands for the bag, so you will repeat this twice. When you hold it up, it becomes one piece.
To complete this step on outside, pin handle to band, centering ends over solid lines, based.
We are now going to be attaching the handle to the outside band of the bag. You've marked the lines on the outside where the handles are going to match up. You are now going to take the handle and start with the handle so that it is all the way in the up position. At this point, you can either choose to turn them in or to turn them out. Either way is okay, but you need to maintain the consistency on both sides. I'm going to turn mine in. You are going to center the handle over the line, and we are going to do a stitch to hold them in place. Do this on both bands and handle. We're going to be stitching the handles onto the band. Now we're going to be doing an edge stitch with this step. The reason for that is that we want this stitch to be caught in the next seam. If we were to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance, you would possibly be able to see this stitch. So you are going to back stitch, but we're going to keep it even, just as if it was an edge stitch. Go ahead and back stitch. And back stitch. You are going to do this on both handles, on both sides of the handle. Press your foot down, back stitch, and come all the way across. When this step is complete, your handle should be stitched at both ends.